Hi again everyone, I'm Kassab from GLOBIS and welcome again to Inside Japan. Today we're at Tokyo American Club and delighted to have with us today Susie Rucker, who is a nutritional therapist and she's just visiting Japan from Singapore. Hi Susie, thanks very much. Thank you. So can we just start? You're here from Singapore for a few days. Can you just tell our viewers what brings you to Japan this time?
I'm coming primarily to work. So I work in Singapore as a nutritional therapist, but I used to work here also. So it's maintaining the connection with Tokyo clients and then increasing over the last, it's nearly 3 years actually. So this is probably about the 7th trip now I've made since I moved. So just keeping up the network here.
Okay, and you used to be based in Japan?
I used to be based in Tokyo.
How many years did you live
For 3 years.
Okay, fantastic. And when you first moved to Japan, can you just, anything that surprised you about the way of life here, or?
I think initially, I found the first 6 months really hard. I moved from this green tropical island with lots of space with 3 children to suddenly living in an apartment in what seemed like a totally chaotic city with a language that I didn't know. And so I think initially actually I found the 6 months to settle quite hard. Then suddenly it all clicks and I didn't want to leave. Hence I guess my trip's coming back.
Fantastic. And obviously as a nutritional therapist, food is kind of something you're very interested in. How would you compare sort of Japanese diet or the food here with maybe Singapore and England?
I think what's amazing, I think the traditional Japanese diet, particularly if you look at how they eat breakfast, but throughout the day, is probably one of the better diets in that they incorporate a lot of oily fish and grilled meats. And then their fermented foods, which are so good for digestion, and the pickled vegetables. The rice is white, and we can always have a debate about white rice, but compared to many refined grains, it's not so bad. So traditionally, I think the Japanese diet is fantastic, and you only have to look at the population to see that. And then you begin to look in Western world and see how the figures, the weight changes. So I think, now we look at, a typical Western diet, it's very much driven by more refined foods, fast foods, the caffeine hits, the Starbucks, the on the street, quick fix. So I think, unfortunately, the Western world, we're moving away from real foods, whole foods, for the choice of speed.
Have you seen any changes in Japan? I know it's getting...
I think for Japan, the very interesting thing is working here and seeing the increase of Starbucks and the subways, the fast food culture. And that's being embraced. And for the first time ever, Japan is having a problem with obesity, even in the younger, particularly, I guess, the younger generation coming up. And I know certainly working with some of the Japanese ladies, they often consider putting a meal together in terms of calories, so maybe the coffee with a little cake from a little cake shop or from Starbucks, over having that traditional meal which would have given them the protein and the better energy for the day. So I think, again, it's driven by speed, but also, this whole kind of coffee culture and this,
So they're counting calories, not thinking about...
the true nutrition of the food. Because, it's absurd, really. You've got this little refined cake that's giving you nothing. But in calorie terms, it's fine. But in nutritionally terms, it's empty.
Could you tell our viewers a bit more about nutritional therapy and what your work is, what you involve?
I think where nutritional therapy is interesting, it's not just talking about what to eat, and like I mentioned, we're not really talking about calories, even though that can come in if it needs to with weight loss. But nutrition is looking at the body in a totally holistic way, and with that I have means to do functional medicine testing to look into layers of digestion, or even test the hair and look at mineral status and toxicity, or test the blood for food intolerances. So it can be very multi-layered. But I think for me, I love it because my background is pediatric nursing. So I have that kind of medical science aspect that I find fascinating to then marry, because it becomes a whole holistic biochemical, issue.
What sort of like illnesses or syndromes or whatever can you be very effective with? Have you had good results?
I guess, again, my background being pediatric nursing, I love working with children. So some of the greatest work I have is what I have done is with children within kind of behavioural spectrum, so from the autistic ADHD, behavioural issues, and then particularly with skin, eczema, and then digestive issues as well. And I think the wonderful thing is with children, they have, they actually innately, have this healthy body, so you get change. You can really implement change with them through both diet, through looking at testing, and again, if supplements are needed, you can support digestion and mood.
So does that mean, say for example, like there's a disruptive child in a class or something, at high school or something, maybe that's nothing to do with them being like a disruptive, but it could
No, but definitely what you want to look at is what they're eating. And I think what's interesting is when you look at skin, the causes, for eczema, you don't want to just put on a topical cream, you want to look at the reason why. And with something like eczema, the reason comes from digestion and liver. So again, a behavioural issue, they're reacting to certain foods. Because you only have to see any child after a party on a high sugar, or again as an adult, if you've done double caffeine, you know that jittery feeling.
Right, yeah.
So a child, that they're getting that feeling from foods because they're reacting to them, again, they will have behavioural issues. So the digestion is something, anyone who's worked with me knows that I'm passionate about digestion and getting it right.
Okay, good, thank you. I know you love Japan, and you were saying earlier how much you loved it. Anything you disliked about living here when you were here before?
Disliked about here? I don't know if there was I think the only frustration probably came from the language.
And you tried studying Japanese?
I did. I started Japanese. I had a wonderful teacher, and I did it for about 3 months, but juggling children, Japanese homework and work. I didn't stay for long, but no, I don't think there's anything I didn't like. Maybe initially I didn't like the winters because suddenly it was cold after Singapore, but that's such a small thing that no, I loved living here.
And when you were here, you must have been exposed to a lot of Japanese kind of like culture and so on. Any like historical figures or artists or celebrities that you particularly?
I was really struck by Kasuma-san's work when I went down to Naoshima, which is the art island, and it's stunning. So there you are, you can wander around the island and you come across beautiful pieces of work. And Kasuma has this amazing, huge pumpkin. I don't know if you've ever seen pictures, and they have polka dots and they're incredibly striking. And even recently she had there's a small exhibition of her work in Singapore. But I think she's a fascinating character. She was very avant-garde for her time, and again, I think has this interesting psychiatric illness that she now lives back in Japan. She lived in New York and she came back here, and I think her work is stunning. It's vibrant, and I think she's considered one of the most important contemporary artists in Japan.
But do you have one of her prints or something at home?
I have. No, I've only got this small picture of the pumpkin gourd, but I love it. I think she's amazing. And in fact, recently in Singapore, in this exhibition, she had this small sculptures, that there was the yellow and then the red dots, and I was asking my children, I said, "God, you just take one of these home. You pop it in your bag. They're beautiful."